Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So what have I been up to? I have been trying, and I do emphasise trying, to build a new frame saw. So on the last podcast I did mention I got a couple of a few very nice donations. So that plus a little bit from the monetization of this podcast went towards buying some new blades. So the blades did come. They also come with handles because I ordered the handles. The handles were I think about £3.50 each. So to save me messing around, I decided to get them. Also got the ironmongery with that. I decided to buy the ironmongery, so I didn't have to go out, buy the steel, and then probably have to buy a few tools to basically to mill the steel. So I decided to do that. The weather's been pretty bad here for pretty much the last week. It's been cloudy and raining on and off. It's been one of those weeks where I've literally been dragging me bench out, and it's like, is it gonna, is it not, is it gonna, is it not, down a little bit, and then literally 15-20 minutes I'm packing everything away because it's raining again. So it's been a bit it's been a little bit frustrating this week, shall we say, because I really want to get the at least one of the frames done before I go back to work. It would be really nice. It should be done, providing the weather's decent tomorrow. I should have it done, and maybe, and I do mean maybe, I get back to me kitchen bench thing, whatever. It just keeps on evolving all the time. I don't know if I actually discussed this, but kind of what I've got in my head now, I haven't fully committed to it yet, but what I've got in my head now is to actually, rather than have it as like a breakfast bar, I'm going to lower it down to a dining table height, maybe 33 inches, something like that. I haven't cut the beech board yet, and I haven't actually cut the oak board. I did actually decide to do away with the two legs. The two legs are actually glued up now, so now I've got two. I think they're like 100 squared. So I've got two of them legs here. What I went to the trouble to, laminate and plane. So they'll probably be used for God knows what. They'll be used for something. I haven't got a clue what. But I do think I am actually going to lower it down to table height, like I said. I think it's just going to be better all around, I think. Plus, I have also made a bench, like a Japanese inspired bench. I talked about that last week. So I've got that bench, and also I've got two chairs to make for it. So the thinking in my head now is that I want to put two drawers in it, rather than doing what I was going to do with it. My original plans was to have it as your kitchen worktop height. That's what I had in mind. Obviously the two square legs, some mortars and tenon joinery all the way around, and then I was actually going to make a sliding countertop that actually pulls out if I need extra room. Obviously I've decided against that now, done away with the legs. So it's not far away from completion. If I'm honest, I am and I'm not too far away. I mean, in essence, I've only got to cut the male portion of the other side of the joint, and that'll give us the basic N shape, pretty much the same as this table if you can see it in the camera. And then obviously I've just got a couple of tenons either side, couple of square tenons, and then on this side obviously I've got to make the rails up and stuff to accept the drawers, and obviously the drawers have got to be made. But I did think to myself, as long as the framework's done and the table itself is kind of done, I can actually just sand it down, get some finish on it, and the drawers can just come as and when I get round to it, basically, which knowing me, it could be years. I don't think so, because one thing I am short of in this house is drawers. There's a really big need for drawers. I like drawers. And I really want to make some, just because they're very practical, obviously. So I think in the whole entire house, there's 3 drawers in my kitchen, but that's the whole entire house. I don't have a chest of drawers, because I want to make a chest of drawers, not because I'm greedy, not because I haven't got the money, but simply because I want to make a chest of drawers. And that's pretty much the same thing with everything, furniture wise in the house. I want to build it myself, and I have pretty much built all my own furniture. Obviously there's still stuff to make. Today I was kind of shaping the two ends of the saw, the frame saw frame. I have to admit it was a bit of a challenge. I had it in my head that I wasn't going to, make this frame so all fancy dancy. I said to myself, no, keep it nice and simple. It doesn't have to look anything special. It just has to work well, or at least work as well as I can use it, sort of thing, or as well as the saw that I actually bought. I said to myself, just get over that, don't go mad trying to shape it. So I kept it really, really simple. The only thing that got shaped was the handles and the upper section. So basically I just sewed down, I think what was it, half an inch. I think I left half an inch, so I took I took a quarter inch off either side, and I put a concave in from the centerpiece. Obviously the centerpiece that stayed at the 1 inch thick, and it kind of concaved in either side, went to the half inch, went up, shaped the top like a quadrant, and obviously just underneath the handles, the bottom of the two side pieces, just rounded them over. So it took us quite a while to do that, to be honest. And I did want this to be a really, really quick build. Having said that, I mean, today, well, I wasn't too bad, but by the time I got back home today, got things set up and whatnot, today I think I might have had 5 hours. Obviously that's including breaks and whatever else during that time. So yeah, it took a long time just to shape the handles. I must admit though, when I was shaping the handle, I did go for comfort. I did make sure that I was happy when I was grabbing the handle, and it was going to be comfortable in my hands. So I think I am happy with that. The rest of the build, I'm not too happy with, if I'm honest. So when I started building it, I had some elm. This elm, it's been lying around for years and years and years, and it's full of old wormholes. And what I'd actually done, I'd actually used it for a worktop for the van. One of the many units I built for the van that I wasn't happy with. So this went on one of the units. It's just been lying there, so I decided to rip it down. So when I was looking at it, I could obviously see all of the wormholes, and I thought to myself, it shouldn't be too bad once I start removing material, to shape the handles and the top and whatever else. And I says the wormhole shouldn't go down too deep. Well, on one of the handles, it actually is quite deep. Structurally, it's absolutely fine. I'm not worried about it at all. It just doesn't look overly good. No one's going to see it other than myself. Up close, that is. Obviously, people will see it when I'm, when I'm using it in me Instagram reels and whatever else. But yeah, I was kind of looking at it, and it was really annoying. I mean, the only other thing I could do would be to try and fill the holes with, sawdust and super glue, or something like that. The problem with that is that you can see it. So, do I do that, or I don't know. Like I said, structural wise, it's absolutely fine. It's just the way it looks a little bit. So. While I remember, so the top section that actually thinnens out. So if you can imagine the centre piece of the frame, so where the mortise and tenon joint goes into, and then you've got above that where the twine will wrap round, and you twist the twine, and obviously that tightens the saw up. So that portion there is what I've done. Actually traced two lines down, like all the way around that, and I used the saw. I say pretty much the same sort of process as what you would do with cutting a tenon with a saw, pretty much. So me being me, I decided to use the original frame saw that I bought, the Beast, as I've started to call it, and I decided to rip down just to see how quick I could do it and how effortless it was and whatever else. And I have to admit, it was quick and it was pretty effortless. However, I do think it's still really hard for us to control. Obviously, I have picked up some things, and I think I did mention these. So when you're actually holding the saw, what I was doing originally when I first got it, I was kind of using my first finger and putting that on the beam. Obviously, that's not the thing to do. I think I explained this in maybe my last podcast. So you've got less control when you do that. So what you actually are supposed to do is to bring your hand all the way down and make contact with the handle in your wrist. And it does, I can justify that it does give you a lot more control over the saw. However, I am still struggling with it. I think one of the things with it is that because it's so big and bulky, I'm not able to tilt it as well as I would like to. Basically, to put it on an angle, the same way I would do with my Japanese saw. Anyone that follows us on Instagram, some people might notice, some people might not notice. When I am doing something similar to that and I'm using a saw, I will as I'm sawing, I will actually rotate the saw, if that makes sense. So I might be cutting at 90 degrees, and then it might gradually go down to 45 degrees, and as I'm progressing further down the cut, it'll actually come back to 90 degrees and whatever else. And this is just so I can trace my line. And one thing the Japanese saws do, or all I've learned to do, whether it's right or wrong, that's the way that I follow lines with the Japanese saw, and I can get some really, really good results. So you might be asking why move away from the Japanese saw. So for those of you that haven't been following along, the whole thing about it is to try and make my life easier. And I think the frame saw might actually be the way forward for doing like large rips and resawing, things like that. So one thing I did actually notice today was that the saw blade that's in me ECE frame saw, that was the original frame saw I bought, the blade that's in that's a universal turbo Japanese cut super duper one, but it's actually, the width of it is actually thinner, and it's than the ones I've just ordered, or the ones that have arrived. So it might be somewhere in the region of maybe 10 to 15 millimeters difference. So I'm kind of hoping that if I am in the same sort of predicament, where it's just a little bit easier for me to actually go down the line, I'm not able to, for whatever reason, I'm not able to get like a full like to tilt the saw to 45 degrees, whatever that reason may be. I think with the saw being a little bit wider, it is actually going to help us to keep me line, and it's not going to basically allow us to to go into the centerpiece like I did today. So yeah, that was a kind of a nightmare today. So bearing in mind what I had done, I was sawing down the line, and I was just in pure awe of how fast it was going. I was like, wow, you know when you go into a kind of a daze sort of thing, when you just like you're awestruck sort of thing. And then I thought, hang on a minute. It's like, check the other side, and it's like we saw line kind of like come down, and whoop. So that went into the center of it. So what I had to do, I had to end up getting the Japanese saw out, which I should have done to start with. Retrace the line, come down, and I was left with like a thin wafer. And then I basically whacked some super glue into that, good dollop of super glue. Got some clamps ready. Just took a bite on them. Applied the accelerator and just tightened up the clamps. Let that dry for a few minutes, and try to sort it out. I did manage to plane some of it away. Obviously, I could only take it so far, and then I did manage to obviously close up the kerf a little bit, and there was still a little bit of kerf remaining, and I just filled that with super glue and some sawdust. So structurally it's fine. I'm not worried about that. It's just it's just one of them things. I'll be honest, it's actually been quite a long it's been a long time since I've done anything like that, so it was a bit of a how can I say it? I was quite humbled by it, obviously, because these frame saws are they're very new to us, very alien to me. I am hoping with this saw I'm actually building, it's it's smaller by 100 millimeters. It's actually a bit lighter. I don't know how much lighter it is, but it's 100% it is lighter. I know that for a fact. So as I said, I'm not sure how much lighter it is, but I have actually taken more material off. I'm not using a metal rod at the top. Obviously, I'm just going to use twine and a piece of elm, to tighten it, to twist it. Obviously, the saw blade is actually 100 mil, so you're losing weight there straight away. And I'm using elm, and I think elm is actually a little bit lighter than beech. I think, I could be wrong, just don't quote us on that. And I've also got the option to take a little bit more off the beam if I want to, which I may not do. I just kind of have to see how I go with that. I was looking at the two blades that I actually got today, and obviously one's rip and one's crosscut, and I haven't really paid too much attention to the crosscut one, if I'm honest. But I was actually examining the rip one, and I have to say that the teeth are quite fine on it. The set's fine on it. It's pretty much. It might be a little bit smaller than me Ryobi saw. Bearing in mind me Ryobi saw, or Ryobi, however you want to say it. When you're closer to the handle, the teeth are finer, and the further away you're, the teeth actually get bigger. So it's small, medium, and then large. It gets bigger as it goes to the end of the saw blade. So I don't think the teeth are quite as big as the ones at the far end of the saw blade. So these are all uniform with the blade I've got, but I'm quite eager to try it, and it looks very, very promising for the ease and the speed that I'm going to get through material. Obviously, I don't know because I haven't tried it yet, but going off me experience and me knowledge with the Japanese saws I've been using for however many years now, and obviously having a little mess around with the frame saw itself, with the universal blade, as I said, I'm quite hopeful that the frame saws are pretty much going to be my go-to for resawing and rip cutting. Those are probably two of my biggest things. Depending on what I'm ripping, if it's just like maybe like 21mm thick material, which is quite common for me. Yeah, I can do it with my Ryobi saw or even a Western saw. It will put us out of breath. I am bent over when I do it, so it can be a little bit taxing on me back, which is obviously the whole reason that I'm experimenting with these frame saws, because you can basically, or at least that's the goal for me, to stand up and basically be cutting it as I'm stood up straight, so I'm not putting a lot of stress on me back. So that's kind of where I want to go with that. But I made a comment, I think it was on Instagram, someone made a comment, and they were saying, basically, yeah, I've only used a frame saw once, and then after that I kind of just used Japanese saws all the time for joinery and so on and so forth. And I think I would have to agree. My personal opinion, I think Japanese saws are hard to beat for joinery. And I have used Western saws obviously. Don't get us wrong, I can get really good results with a traditional Western saw, like a traditional dovetail saw, anything like that. Yeah, I can get decent, some pretty good results. But I personally think the Japanese saws are better. Again, just my opinion. So for that reason, I think most likely I will be using the Japanese saws to do all the joinery work. Me personally, I'm at a point now where I can get really good control of the saw. After, it's obviously I've been messing around with these things for a long time now. I'm not saying I'm a master by no means, but I have when I use one, I am able to to utilize it to quite a good degree, which can't be said with frame saws. As I said before, I've been humbled quite a number of times. But going back to the saw blade, I think if you take in the Japanese the rip cut pattern of the teeth, the sharpness of the teeth, the way they're set and whatever else, and then you're mixing that with a Western, a European style frame saw, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So you're getting the Japanese, what I think is a really proficient, the way they set the teeth and the way the teeth are cut, so on and so forth. And then you've got the frame, where the frame's actually, it's tension in it, so you don't have to worry about pushing back into the blade, back into the kerf, and for it to be, kinking or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that because it's tensioned all the way. And it's the same with the Western saws. I think I pointed this out last week in the podcast. If you're going, if you're going through a piece of wood, and something binds, or you go off your line a little bit and you kink it or whatever, that's not going to happen with a frame saw, because it's tensioned. Either way you do it, it's tensioned. And I have noticed that that's been very predominant when I've been using it. You can tell when the wood is binding because it becomes more difficult to actually saw. But even when it is binding, you can still go through it. Obviously, when I've done it after, it's like, oh yeah, because it's binding. Because normally when it binds, you don't just, or at least I don't just feel the tightness. It's like, obviously things will start to, obviously the saw stick, that'll start binding, but then it's twisting and you hear the noise, or at least I do. But obviously with a frame saw, you just get the binding. I didn't really notice the noise. As I said, it's just the binding, and because the saw can't bend or kink because it's tension, that's totally missed that. So I'm like kind of going, and I'm, oh yeah, that's why. And I stuck a little wedge in. So yeah, I'm really eager to get this finished and pretty much start experimenting with it and using it, or trying to learn how to use it. Hopefully I'll become proficient in not too long of a time. Obviously it's going to take us, I don't know how long it's going to take us. It could take us weeks, months. I hope in a few months I've got a good handle on it. Yeah, it's actually been a funny old couple of months really. Ever since I built the sawhorse workbench, there's been a lot of change. To look at it from the outside, you might think, well, you've only swapped the saw and you've only built a new bench. But the thing about it is, obviously, when you build a bench and you're used to sitting down on a bench or kneeling at a bench, and then you're bringing that bench up to your waist and you're standing up, obviously everything just, everything changes. Some things change minutely because you're standing, where other things will, like really, you think, wow, how awkward is this, or how easy is this? Yeah, it's been a funny couple of months. Um, One thing I have noticed about the bench is that it, it'll work on uneven ground. It doesn't like it when it's being set up on uneven ground for obvious reasons. But you can kind of get away with it. So today was a good example. So I put one of the sawhorses out, brought the other sawhorse out, and I put the bottom shelf on. So basically, when I set it up, this is how it gets set up. I get one sawhorse, I get the other sawhorse. I get the bottom shelf, which basically it's got two buttons underneath, so it can't slide off. So I put that on. That gets us in the vicinity of how far away the sawhorses should be spaced. Then I get the tool shelf or the tool rack. Get that into position. Obviously, I've got to get it onto the shelf section. Move the other push the other sawhorse up and then let that come back down. Once that's done, then I get the little T section that goes from horse to horse, and obviously the two metal pins come through either side. So today, the first sawhorse was fine. It looked pretty level in all planes. This sawhorse, or rather the second sawhorse, wasn't level. So it was level going from front to back, but the A-frame itself wasn't level. So it was obviously one of the legs was wanting to lean down to the other side, which was bringing the whole A-frame section off parallel. So the problem with this, when you're setting it up, at least, is you're trying to put not the A-frame, you're trying to put the support beam in with the two metal pegs at either end, and it's, you're struggling to get it in. Obviously, there's just a big gap in it, sort of thing. So obviously I had to leave that where it was, and I had to go and get the heavy bench top itself, get that in, get the pegs in, one of the pegs in, locate it, get it in, come to this side, push one of the pegs down and kind of lift it and push the sawhorse in, and like kind of get it in line, drop it in, and put the other two back pegs in. Once that's done, obviously it's not too bad. I think as well, because we've had a lot of rain, obviously once everything was locked into position, the legs could settle into the soil, obviously because it's been raining, so the soil is soft. But the last few times I have used it, one of the problems that I have seen with it is that if the sawhorses aren't completely level, going from front to back, basically you'll get like a twisting effect, if that makes sense. So if you can imagine, say you've got a board of an oak board, let's just say, and you've got some twist in the board. So obviously you get the one corner, finger on one corner, and you get the finger on the next corner of the far corner, and you could press down and it would rock. And basically that's the sort of effect that you've got. So if you've got your first sawhorse and it's 100% level, and you've got the second sawhorse, the front of it's level with the front of this one. However, the back is actually running down ever so slightly, and obviously because it's running down ever so slightly, there becomes a gap, and you're able to get that twisting effect. It's not, to be honest, it's not too noticeable unless you're moving around the bench a lot, which sometimes I do, depending on like what I'm doing. So kind of what I've done with that, or we have solved it, it's just by using some loose change. Usually about two pence pieces, and I've literally just stacked them on top of each other and put it in, and usually that's enough. But yeah, it doesn't like uneven ground. As I said, once you get the thing together, it's not overly bad, and you can do things with it, like as I've just mentioned. So I mean, there's always a way around things, but I think ideally, if you are going to kind of use some sort of a setup similar to that, you'd probably be better off in, I don't know, in a shop or an apartment or something. But in all fairness, I did have that in mind where people could use it where they didn't have a lot of space. Me personally, I did kind of design it to be used outside in my garden. Obviously, I didn't really give what I've just been talking about a lot of thought, because if I had I possibly would have done something else. But as it stands, it's still a decent bench. I must admit, I really do 110% like the tool rest, or the tool tray underneath the bench, not the back shelf, because I have actually got a back shelf. What I find is that the back shelf does get quite busy, and even the bench will get quite busy. So it's just nice when it does start getting busy to actually just push the shelf forward, pull the tray forward, and just tie all of the tools that I'm not using momentarily into it. And it takes seconds to do. Pull the shelf back over the top, and I've got a load of more room. And again, if I need any of those tools, slide it forward, see what I want, slide it back. It's really good. I didn't think I would like it as much as what I did. I'm kind of glad that I put that little lip on now. I haven't really used it in the way I intended it to be used, and it's just been like kind of more just like for a shelf. But it is working out pretty well that way. So I kind of felt it's I think it's just been one of those lucky things where it's one of me ideas didn't really need to be there. It was a good idea in hindsight, and obviously it still can be used in that way. It's just kind of now I'm looking at it, I don't think it'll kind of, for me at least, I don't think it'll kind of be getting used that way. But as I said, it's it's still there if I need to use it, and it is serving a very good purpose as two lips for a shelf. So I can't complain too much there. The vase, it has been nice to have a vase, I must admit. It's been quite a long time since I've had the use of a vase. Although I could have went out and bought one, or I have actually got like a good record one. Must be 50 plus years old easy. Round at my mum's house on my first bench, my first tall bench that is. So I mean I could actually go around and take that off. To be honest, I couldn't put it on the sawhorse workbench simply because it weighs an absolute ton weight. It's absolutely, it's so heavy. It's so heavy. I remember quite clearly when I bought that vase. I think I bought that vase for £20, and I bought it on South Shields Market. It was an old guy. He doesn't get there anymore. He hasn't been there for a lot of years now, but he was quite good because he used to get all the old tools, like you name it, he had it. But at the time, I was only just starting to get into my hand tools, which was a real shame, because obviously, should he still be getting here today, you know, there's a good chance I would be buying all sorts of them. You know, he did have quite a lot of good tools, but as I said, I remember the day very clearly. Honestly, I remember picking the thing up, because he said to us, he says, you just want to leave a chat, mate, you won't go and get your car. And at the time, I had never ever picked up a vise before, you know, and I was looking at it, I thought, it's a little bit big, but it's just bulky. I was like, I'm a scaffolder, I lift steel for a living, it's fine. I picked the thing up, I looked at him and I went, yeah, I'll go and get my car, mate. And he started laughing at us. He's like, I thought you, mate. So obviously went and got the car, but it's so heavy. It's as I say, it's still working. I was round at my mum's not so long ago, and I was in the shed. But I can't remember what I was in the shed for. I went in the shed for something, and obviously you pass it, and or at least I do when I see a vase. You know, just like I'm like a big kid, so like that. So it's still there, it's still working and everything. Who knows? I might take it. I mean, I've got that Nicholson style bench in me shed. That's just, I've never used it. It's such a shame. You know, I spent the time to make it and everything, and I've never used it. It's just basically covered in crap. It's just like screws and whatever else, and then I've got like a load of ply up against it. Such a shame. I think to be honest, I'm gonna try this year. I'm gonna try, and even if it's like the start of winter, I'm gonna try and get a new like workshop built, or like a really big shed basically. It's going to be so nice just to have, you know, like a good decent setup where I'm not looking for things. I mean, a lot of my time is spent just looking for tools. You know, I go into that shed and it's just so small. It's not organised or anything. And to be honest, the design of it, the design's not great, obviously, because I'm losing a lot of space. When I built it, what I should have done, I should have built it, and I should have put a sloping roof on it instead of trying to be fancy pantsy and put a big apex roof on it. So it would be nice to rip that down, obviously reuse what timber I can use out of it, and build a whole new, you know, big organised workshop. That would be absolutely awesome. Just with the week we've had with you know, with the weather, it just makes sense to get one done. It's like, you know, obviously if you've got nothing on, you've got nothing to do, and it's really bad, the weather's really bad, it's like, what do you do? Wasted so much time just like sitting where I am now. I like to be outdoors. I'm quite an outdoorsy person, so when it rains, it kind of does mess me day up quite a bit. I'm not really a big person for sitting in front of a television all day. It's not for me, that. So I think that could be quite good to do. I've been toying with it for a while now. I think it really needs to be done. Like I say, I waste so much time not being able to get out into the garden because of rain or whatever else. So obviously if I had a workshop, it would just be great to go in, and then I could actually do the podcast in there, and that would be quite good. Obviously doing a podcast in there, and actually maybe be able to demonstrate what I'm talking about sometimes. I've got everything to hand where I can actually just bring it into the shots, momentarily. Would be pretty cool, instead of kind of waving my hands around and as I do, and trying to explain things. But I'm going to call it there. I've run it on enough. So until the next time, I shall see and speak to you guys later.